OP must work off bad karma first. Mrs. Cooper once glimpsed our very illustrious sister, HPB's elemental. Ah, fine. Out on it. Beautiful. You know the look, missus, or you know when a lady's a showing her elemental. Mr. Best entered, tall, young, mild, light. He bore in his hand with grace a notebook, new, large, clean, bright. That model schoolboy, Stephen said, would find Hamlet's musings about the afterlife of his princely soul, the improbable, insignificant, and undramatic monologue, as shallow as Plato's. John Eglinton, frowning, said, waxing wroth, "Upon my word, it makes my blood boil to hear anyone compare Aristotle with Plato." Which of the two, Stephen asked, would have banished me from this commonwealth? Unsheathe your dagger definitions. Horseness is the whatness of all horse. Streams of tendency and eons they worship. God, noise in the streets, very peripatetic. Space, what you damn well have to see. Through spaces smaller than red globules of man's blood, they creep and crawl after Blake's buttocks into eternity, of which this vegetable world is but a shadow. Hold on to the now, the here, through which all future plunges to the past. Mr. Best came forward, amiable, towards his colleague. Haynes is gone, he said. Is he? I was showing him Jubenvale's book. He's quite enthusiastic, don't you know, about Hyde's Love Songs of Connacht. I couldn't bring him in to hear the discussion. He's gone to Gill's to buy it. Bound thee forth my booklet quick to greet the callous public. Writ I ween 'twas not my wish in lean unlovely English. The peat smoke is going to his head, John Eglinton opined. We feel in England, penitent teeth. I smoked his backing, green twinkling stone, an emerald set in the ring of the sea. People do not know how dangerous love songs can be, the auric egg of Russell warned occultly. The movements which work revolutions in the world are born out of the dreams and visions in a peasant's heart on the hillside. For them the earth is not an exploitable ground but the living mother. The rarefied air of the academy and the arena produce the 6-shilling novel, the music hall song. France produces the finest flower of corruption in Mamet. But the desirable life is revealed only to the poor of heart, the life of Homer's Phaeacians. From these words, Mr. Best turned an unoffending face to Stephen. Mallarmé, don't you know, he said. Excuse me. Has written those wonderful prose poems Steve McKenna used to read to me in Paris. The one about Hamlet. He says, Il se promène lisant au livre de lui-même, don't you know, reading the book of himself. He describes Hamlet given in a French town, don't you know, a provincial town. He advertised it. His free hand graciously wrote tiny signs in the air. Hamlet, ou les distraits pièces de Shakespeare. He repeated to John Eglinton's new gathered frown, pièces de Shakespeare, don't you know? It's so French. The French point of view. Hamlet, oh, the absent-minded beggar, Stephen ended. John Eglinton laughed. Yes, I suppose it would be, he said. Excellent people, no doubt, but distressingly short-sighted in some manners. Sumptuous and stagnant exaggeration of murder. A deathsman of the soul, Robert Greene called him, Stephen said. Not for nothing was he a butcher's son, wielding the sledded poleaxe and spitting in his palms. 9 lives are taken off for his father's one. Our Father who art in purgatory. Khaki Hamlets don't hesitate to shoot. The blood-boltered shambles in Act 5 is a forecast of the concentration camp sung by Mr. Swinburne. Cranley, his mute orderly, following battles from afar, whelps and dams of murderous foes whom none but we have spared. Between Saxon smile and Yankee yacht, the devil and the deep sea. He will have it that Hamlet is a ghost story, John Eglinton said for Mr. Best's behoof. Like the fat boy in Pickwick, he wants to make our flesh creep. List, list, oh list. My flesh hears and creeping hears, if thou didst ever. What is a ghost? Stephen said with tingling energy. One who has faded into impalpability through death, through absence, through change of manners. Elizabethan London lay as far from Stratford as corrupt Paris lies from virgin Dublin. Who is the ghost from limbo patrum returning to the world that has forgotten him? Who is King Hamlet? John Eglinton shifted his spare body, leaning back to judge. Lifted. It is this hour of a day in mid-June, Stephen said, begging with a swift glance their hearing. The flag is up on the playhouse by the bankside. The bare sacrosanct growls in the pit near it. Paris garden, canvas climbers who sail with drape chew their sausages among the groundlings. Shakespeare has left a huge-nosed house in Silver Street and walks by the Swan Mews along Riverbank. But he does not stay to feed the pen chivying her game of signets toward the rushes. The Swan of Avon has other thoughts. Composition of place. Ignatius Loyola, make haste to help me. The play begins. A player comes on under the shadow, made up in the cast-off mail of Court Buck, a well-set man with a bass voice. It is the ghost, the king, a king and no king, and the player is Shakespeare, who has studied Hamlet all the years of his life, which were not vanity, in order to play the part of the spectre. He speaks the words to Burbage, the young player who stands before him beyond the rack of circles, calling him by a name. Hamlet, I am thy father's spirit, bidding him to list. To his son he speaks, the son of his soul, the prince, young Hamlet, and to the son of his body, Hamnet Shakespeare, who has died in Stratford, that his namesake may live forever. Is it possible that the player Shakespeare, a ghost by absence, and in the vesture of buried Denmark, a ghost by death, speaking his own words to his own son's name, had Hamlet lived, he would have been Prince Hamlet's twin? Is it possible, I want to know, or probable, that he did not draw or foresee the logical conclusion of those premises? You are the dispossessed son. I am the murdered father. Your mother is the guilty queen, Anne Shakespeare, born Hathaway. But this prying into the family life of a great man, Wilson began impatiently. Art thou there, Trumpany? Interesting only to the parish clerk. I mean, we have the plays. I mean, when we read the poetry of King Lear, what is it to us how the poet lived? As for living, our servants can do that for us, Villadil has said. Peeping and prying into green room gossip of the day, the poet's drinking, the poet's debts. We have King Lear, and it is immortal. Mr. Best's face appealed to agree. Flow over them with your waves and with your waters, Manannan, Manannan MacLear. How now, sirrah, that the pout has lent you when you were hungry? Marry, I wanted it. Take thou this noble. Go to. You spent most of it in Georgina Johnson's bed, clergyman's daughter. Agam bite of Inuit. Do you intend to pay it back? Oh, yes. When? Now? Well, no. When then? I pay my way. Steady on, he's from beyond Boyne Water, the northeast corner, you owe it. Wait, 5 months, molecules all change. I am other eye now, other eye got pound. Buzz, buzz. But I, entelechy, form of forms, am I by memory, because under ever-changing forms, I that sinned and prayed and fasted, a child